Hey guys, I'm Carly. This is PS Group's email marketing workshop. This is specifically um, this is specifically catered towards those in the adult industry, and it's sort of like a 101 because it's not just important to get those emails and to know how to get those emails. It's also important to know what on earth to do with them once you have them. So we're going to be covering a lot today, and this is hitting send. So for this presentation, this webinar, the topics that we will be covering, just so you'll have a roadmap, are we're going to be talking about how to build an email marketing strategy, why it's important to do email marketing in the first place, and how you build that strategy to achieve the objectives that you're trying to reach. We've also going to dive into segmentation. We'll talk about the data and metrics, how to actually test those metrics, make sure that all the things you're doing are really working for you, and optimizing beyond that. So then we'll cover a case study and how to really apply those testing best practices. The biggest question that we typically get beyond the adult-friendly sex worker platforms is regarding content. What the hell do I write about? We're going to get to that. We'll figure it out. And then we discuss list management because that is an important factor. We'll touch on the different laws, specifically the CAN-SPAM Act, and subsequently how to avoid that spam filter. Finally, we will cover different platform options, what you can do to start building that list, and then eventually, of course, we'll have an open Q&A. So unless there are any initial questions, which you can pop into the Q&A or the chat, I'm just going to proceed. So a quick overview. Who are we, PS Group? We're a creative marketing agency. We are specifically for people in the adult industry, businesses in the adult industry. However, we are basically, I would say 90% current and retired sex workers ourselves. We are an international team. We do things like branding and strategy, graphic design, merchandise design, copywriting, website design, search engine optimization, social media marketing, post-production, and then selling and distributing the merchandise. If you have any questions, please visit us at wearepsgroup.com and definitely follow us at Twitter, which is @wearepsgroup. So let's just dive right in. So what is an email marketing strategy? First, you kind of have to figure out what type of email you're actually going to be sending, because they do fall into different categories, typically four, one of four. And the first one is sort of like a newsletter, a digest, information that you want to relay to the reader, whether that be an announcement, important updates. It is disseminating information. And that's what I think a lot of people first think of when they think of email marketing in this context. Then we've got acquisition, which is essentially getting those people who have signed up for your email list into paying customers. They are converting, you're moving them through the sales funnel. Then you've got retention, which is about making sure the customers you have stay customers, how to engage them, how to re-engage them. Finally, you've got, I think, what a lot of people call sometimes blasts, which are offer emails or promo emails. You're going on tour, you are promoting a special, you have a contest, there's something specific. It is a singular topic within that email. Okay, so to build a strategy and to eventually have, more likelihood of success, you really want to think about, okay, what what are these objectives? Like, why am I sending this email? You don't ever want to send an email just to send it. There's no purpose. It's not going to work in your favor. Fans will see through it. So you really want to have a clear objective, a clear purpose, and a clear end goal. So we find that the best checklist of questions are to consider, what are your long-term business objectives? What goals are you trying to achieve within your business? And then what are your overall email marketing objectives in general? Is it brand awareness? Is it keeping the customers you have? Is it, on and on? Then we've got, what actually kind of email is this going to be? Does this fall into the category of a newsletter? Or is this more like an acquisition, try to grab the attention and make the reader into a customer? Then finally, we go back to objectives. What is the specific objective for this email? Based on what type of email it is, we want to know what we want the reader to do upon opening and reading the email that you're sending. They want to have a call to action involved. So what is that action that you want people to take? Everything, it's got to have a purpose. It's got to have a short path from A to B. Okay, so then we can move on to segmentation. Now, what the hell is segmentation? We've got this very long explanation, and it's sort of like, well, segmentation is taking your list and dividing it up into almost like sub-lists, mini lists. Now, a mini list can have thousands of people on it, or it could have 2 people on it. Basically, you want to have common denominators. There is a reason why you're grouping everyone on that list in that way. So it could be according to geographic region. It could be where all of the people on that list originated, whether it's like my OnlyFans fans, whether it's my ManyVids customers. You could do it according, we have a client who does it according to fetish. Here are all my foot fetish guys. Here are my my ASMR type clients. However you want to categorize them, you want to personalize. It's a tactic to personalize, which ends up engaging people. So how to segment? We just discussed, if you want higher engagement, you want people to really respond and take the action that you are asking them to take. You want it to be based on common denominators, specific characteristics that they share. So it could also be like your VIP clients, the people who've been on your list for 6 months, open it every single time, engage with it every single time. Or it could be, people who have purchased before versus people who haven't, who are brand new to you. The sky is the limit for how you want to segment. I had a boss once who said the perfect segment is the segment of one. And that is because it's totally impossible, obviously. But the more specific you get in how you're grouping and categorizing these readers, these emails on your list, the more they're going to respond to it, likely, because it's relevant to them. You want to get so specific that you get to the point where you are speaking to that one person. Obviously, you can't really do that or achieve that, but you want them to feel that way. And so by customizing your emails and being able to send them to people who are segmented on segmented lists, then you're going to be able to have a higher likelihood of engagement and conversions. So speaking of conversions, that is what a metric is. So we're going to dive into metrics. Let's just do a couple definitions because these are a lot of techie terms. And let me preface this by saying, I am a firm believer that everyone, every sex worker, every individual is smart enough, educated enough, capable enough to do email marketing or really any sort of marketing. The question is, with something new, do you want to put in the time and effort into doing it, into learning it? It's not rocket science. Every single one of you can do this. And I know you can all do it successfully. The point is just whether it is worth it to you in terms of your interest level. Do you enjoy it? If not, then maybe outsource it, or maybe do it less frequently, but consistently, which is a practice that we're going to dive into later. But for the most part, something that might motivate you in terms of how important and successful and profitable, effective email marketing can be is there is this crazy stat that I read that said for every dollar you put in, okay, whether that be in terms of the cost of an email platform, whether it be a value on your time to learn it and refine it and all of that, or maybe the cost of hiring someone to do this for you, like PS Group. Basically, for every dollar you put in, on average, it has been shown and proven that you get $36 in return. How crazy is that? $1 in, you're likely looking at a return of $36. So for everyone who says email marketing is dead, hasn't been shadow banned on Twitter. It's sort of like this is something you guys can own. So you can never be that list taken away from you. That is something you will own and you can use to your benefit. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. We'll get off our soapbox and get back to metrics. So what are metrics? Metrics are just singular data points. That means that I'm going to choose this number or this data point to track. And so I can see when I'm trying to test whether something is working or not, I can use that to analyze and see if it is working because of the number factor. It's quantifiable. Then you've got KPIs, key performance indicators. Those are the metrics that you're using to see whether you are going to be getting a return on your investment. If you're getting profits, if you are effective in your objectives and the way you're getting there. Then you've got a CTR, which is the click-through rate. It's just how many people click. Not open, but how many people opened the email and then did something, clicked on something, whether that's a button, whether that's a picture that's hyperlinked, whether it's in the text, a hyperlink. So that is the click-through rate. That's a great metric to track. Finally, we've got bounces. Now, a bounce, we're going to talk about the difference between hard bounces and soft bounces, but it basically means an email that didn't work. For whatever reason, that user did not receive the email because there was something wrong with the email address itself. Okay, now, how do you choose the best metrics? Apparently, we're going blind while we're playing billiards, but it totally depends on what you're trying to achieve, what your objectives are. So usually a good way of figuring all this out is saying, okay, what is the purpose of the email? Is it a newsletter, acquisition, retention, or promo? What are my primary objectives for this email? What does success look like? And then we've also got, what do I choose in order to test
and gauge that success. Like, how do I quantify that number, and how am I going to see how it how it changes and impacts the different elements. Okay, so here's, because that was all really esoteric. So why don't why don't we just go through some examples, which is, what is the purpose of the email? Okay, so in this example, we're saying it's a newsletter email. I want to send an important announcement. Okay, so what is the objective of that? To get the reader to open it. So in that way, success would be defined by a good open rate or a high open rate. Now, how can I see what's going to impact open rates? It's going to be subject lines for the most part. Okay, so you can test different subject lines, see which one is getting better results. Okay, another example. How do I promote a special offer? I get the recipient to use that offer. That's what the objective is. And how do I want to quantify that? By click throughs, someone clicking a button saying, I want to use this offer, and conversions, making the sale. Finally, how can I test that? Well, you could try a button versus like a text link. You can see which gets more clicks, which is getting more usage of a promo code, which is going straight to your booking form. You can literally test anything you want. And as long as you're not going too nuts with it, because we're going to talk about testing fundamentals in the next section. God, in the next section, you can get really creative, but slow and steady wins the race. Let me promise you that. So we're going to get onwards with the next section, which is testing fundamentals. How do you actually put this into like best practices? So I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, which is keep it simple. You only want really to be testing one or max two. I personally would recommend one, because if you're testing too many, if you've got too many variables, too many balls in the air, you don't necessarily know which one is affecting the end numbers. So it's best to be like, okay, in this email, I'm gonna work on the subject lines, or I'm gonna try hyperlink in the text versus a button, and we'll get into the things you can test. But as you grow your list, as you know your success and you know patterns, you can get a little bit more sophisticated. Finally, be consistent, consistent. Do a strategy, a plan, and stick with it. Okay, you always want to be tweaking, you always want to be testing, you always want to be learning. And to that end, I hate to break it to you, you're gonna have emails that bomb. That is actually a positive, because it gives you a baseline. It gives you information about what clearly didn't work. And it's just important to know what didn't work as much as it looks like this did work. Okay, Makeda, we're gonna circle back in the next Q&A. So we will come to your question just in a little bit. So be sure to keep a positive attitude. Don't freak out. Emails will bomb, and that's good. Now, test your emails for maximum results. What are you going to be testing? Okay, things like subject line, we touched on that. What about the time the email is sent? Like in the morning, at night, 11 o'clock after status meetings? We don't know. You can only find out. And what is going to be really good for one person is not necessarily going to be good for the next person. All of this is going to be influenced by your specific client base, your customer demographic, okay? And the people who are on your list and their habits and trends. Now, you can also do day of the week,
You could do links in the email. There's all sorts of things you can be testing. But let's look at a few like surprising stats, which is that personalized subject lines, hey Bob, haven't seen you in a while. People are more likely, 26% more likely to open the email. You've got 40% of email recipients who open it because of the subject line. It has nothing to do with who you are, has nothing to do with your business, their knowledge. It is literally because of the subject line. Finally, and here's a little tip, is use an emoji. I'm going to put in the chat here emojipedia.com, where you can copy and paste the HTML. You can just literally copy and paste an emoji and pop it into a subject line. And 56% of opens, it increased by. So, and also we will get into some compliance things later on, like keeping emails safe for work, limiting any sort of adult language, basically email filters, spam box, internet service providers, email service providers, they will scan for certain words, okay? But they can't read emojis. So you can actually use an eggplant. You could use a, like that spraying faucet shower type emoji. Whatever you want to say to imply something that may not be safe for work, that actually works. It's not going to get you censored. So moving on, how to generate a subject line that actually is going to do something. There are a certain number of best practices, which you want to get a sense of time sensitivity, of urgency, like for the next 24 hours, blah, 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 or only 2 days left to vote. Then you've got like open-ended questions. We had a client who was a full service provider who just had the subject line, how about some extra time? Or would you like some extra time? I mean, just it's sort of psychology and human nature that when someone asks us a question, we feel this compulsion almost to reply and answer them. So it just sort of, it triggers this engagement when you have a question. You could definitely have an offer in there, but you got to be careful with spam filter trigger words, which we're going to cover in a future section. You definitely want to see how much you can personalize, or personalize not just by their name. It could be, we love our feet, or something like that. You could talk about a proof of concept, which is like recent news, hotter than Britney's single. Then you could tease a story like, I have a confession. You never know. I mean, you can really get very creative about this. Finally, you can announce an event because that also creates a sense of urgency and time sensitivity. Okay, test playful versus straightforward. And then you've also got words that not only will trigger the spam filter, they will negatively impact the likelihood that someone is going to open your email. Finally, keep it brief. Keep it really concise, because after 30 characters, it goes into that ... territory. It gets cut off and it doesn't look as good and it becomes less compelling. So finally, don't be afraid to use the same subject line. If it works, a few months down the line, use it again. Why not? It worked. You've got new subscribers. You've moved your reader base and your list through different segments. Why not? Okay, this is a great tool and it is case sensitive. Okay, so it's all lowercase, bit.ly/ESL-generator. This is a great creative brainstormer, thought starter. It will generate potential subject lines for you. Now, Testing applied. How do you actually put this all into practice, right? Here's a case study. You can see some of the stats, which is that we had a client, and don't be intimidated by numbers, whatever way, whatever works for you is fabulous, because you know what? You're doing it. You're doing it. It'll grow over time. Just doing it is a huge accomplishment. So just commit to trying it and you'll go from there. But this was a case study in which a client took 50 people on her list and 50 people on her list and sent one subject line to test group A, sent another subject line to test group B. It's called A/B testing or split testing. And we saw what subject line actually got a better open. Now, because the actual content of the email was exactly the same, you're seeing the same click rate. It's at 36, 37%. Whereas a different subject line, you got a 70% open rate versus a 56. So we took that learning, that knowledge, that discovery, and we sent out to the rest her entire list with the subject line that actually worked. Finally, retargeting. So going back a few days later, looking at all the people who never opened the email, we sent it to them again. Same exact content, just a different subject line. So for the test group A, we resent it to them with the subject line that we had discovered really worked. Then for the people who never opened in test group B, which was the second subject line test group, and then test group C, which is the rest of the email list. So everyone who hadn't opened it, we sent it to them again with a new subject line. We saw what happened. And overall, we got a lot of people to open it as a result, and we learned a lot. Now, timing is critical. Okay, it's going to vary not only from industry to industry, but niche to niche and individual to individual. Because based on your branding, based on who you are, based on your objectives, your overall business strategy, you're going to reach different individuals. You're going to have different fans. You're going to have different customers. You're going to have different clients. So you want to try to test whether you're sending it during the day, whether it's better in the afternoon, whether it's good to send during lunchtime versus during a weeknight evening. I mean, you try all the different things, but overall, a general guide, a good place to start is that all industry is completely agnostic to what the business is about, what the email is about, who the recipients are. Tuesdays are the best days, followed by Thursday. So your mileage may vary. We don't know, but those are good times to start. Those are good times to start with. Finally, you're going to want to try to test your call to action links. So you want to try buttons, which are like the little rectangles, obviously, versus text. Try both of them in the same email. See what performs better. Okay, orange, red, and green buttons frequently receive the highest levels of engagement. I don't know why. Whatever color you're going to choose, make sure that as you're designing your emails, laying them out, formatting them, that whatever color those buttons are or the hyperlink color is, you want to make sure it contrasts, it pops out. So orange, red, and green are very bold colors most of the time. So you just want to make sure that the brain picks up on the fact that this is standing out. This is something important. You're calling their attention to it. If you've got hyperlinks and a button in the same email, make sure it's a consistent color. It's basically a call to action color that you're assigning. Then you definitely want to have a call to action at the very top of your email. It's called above the folds. It is all the content, everything you can see, whether it's on your mobile, whether it's your desktop, everything that is in full view of the screen before you have to start scrolling. So you want to have a call to action up there, but you want to make sure you scatter them throughout the email because a lot of people don't make it to the end. Make sure you got it right there at the top. Then you've got maybe someone is scanning. You want to make sure that you've gotten their attention, you've engaged them. So while they're still reading, here's a call to action. Or maybe it's better to put it at the end, but you always want to have multiple. You want to drive it into them. So yeah, that is the end of the testing sections. So here we are with content, which is a huge section and usually is a pain point for a lot of people, myself included. So with content, it's better, again, to have a reason to be sending the email. Again, if you can't think of anything to say, then you need to circle back to your strategy and your objectives, because that's going to drive your content ideas and what you should be talking about. Now, as some best practices, tell a story. Start with that. I have a confession. Tell a story. You definitely want to keep the text really short. Be brief. Have really brief paragraphs. Be concise. Pull out that thesaurus. Use your power words. The shorter you can make it with those impact words, the better. Because let's be honest, no one reads these days. We scan. So you want to make sure that you accept that and you move on with it. So you make it easier to scan. You can put bold headers. You can put paragraph breaks. You could use, basically, you can underline phrases. You want to make sure that it's really easy at a glance to gather what you want them to do, what the call to action is, and what information you're trying to relay. First of all, with emails that are promo based or an offer, okay, just pick one call to action, just one. People get very, very, very confused. So it's always best to just choose one offer. Just talk about that. If you got multiple ones, great. That's a future email. Definitely create that sense of urgency, not just in a subject line, but also in the actual content. You want to make sure it feels like they only have a short period of time to be able to take advantage of this amazing opportunity for them. Now, you can have calls to action which sound different, but it all directs to the same place for the same goal. You could be like, click here. You could be like, don't you want to read more? You can phrase it however you want. You can do it, with your buttons versus text links, but it's all driving that reader to click on something that is going to be furthering your objective one step closer to your goal. Okay. Again, only feature one, crystal clear. You want to be super, super, super brief, test, and then repeat, because people are not going to go all the way to the end of the email just to figure out what you're asking them to do. Okay. Now, here's another little tip with Harry Potter giving me vertigo, but those who often always included an animated GIF saw return on their investment 37 to 1. So that's a great tip. I actually started doing this with our emails, throwing in a GIF. Now, moving on to list management. And this is where a lot of people get really either motivated, excited, anxious. I don't know. Maybe there's like a sense of urgency involved. You want to keep your lists clean. Now, what does a clean list mean? First of all, we have to figure out what a bounce is. Remember at the beginning, we said a bounce is an invalid email, an email that just doesn't work. It can't be delivered for whatever reason. A hard bounce is when the email just doesn't exist. It's maybe there was a typo in it. Maybe maybe their account was suspended. Maybe they deleted their account. You never know. But for some reason, absolutely no way you're ever going to reach that email address. And then you could have a soft bounce, which is the email does exist, but for whatever reason, their inbox is full, Gmail is suddenly down. I don't know, it has happened. Basically, it's a valid email address. It just can't be delivered at that time. Okay, finally, another definition is your sender reputation score. We're going to get into this, but it is the number that is assigned. It is basically like your report card based on who is delivering your emails. So it's not like your personal grade. It is if you're using, let's say, like Why Not Mail, for instance, or MailChimp. It is basically a score that is being assigned to the organization delivery service that is sending the email is getting. And that will determine whether you go to spam, whether you go to promos, whether you go to the inbox, whether you're just sort of blacklisted. It is possible. Okay, so you have to keep a clean list. Okay, so I would say quarterly, no less than twice a year. You want to manually go through that list. Look where there are duplicate addresses. Because the thing is that sender score is also determined by how much people engage with your email, how often people are opening it, how often they're engaging, clicking things with it, or forwarding it. Basically, email providers or internet service providers, they want to make sure that you're not spamming. So the higher your engagement rate, the higher your sender score. So by extrapolation, if you've got multiple email addresses in there for the same address, then they're only going to open it once. So it's going to affect your score. It's going to affect your engagement rate. Take them out. Go manually through it. See if it's saying like Yahoo versus Yahoo. There are obvious typos that we can fix. Or like gaymail.com. You never know. It could be different ways. So then most email delivery services, most email marketing platforms will remove the hard and soft bounce emails for you. Okay, so you don't have to worry about those messing up your average. Finally, you definitely want to take all those unsubscribes, keep them on a segmented list. Don't send to them, but make sure you have that. Most of the email marketing platforms will do this automatically for you. But if you're working on a spreadsheet, you want to make sure anyone who is unsubscribed, you are honoring that. You don't want to resubscribe them accidentally, okay? Because it is crucial to be in compliance with the law. You have to, and we're going to talk about this in a few, you have to honor those. People have to literally agree to be on your list. Otherwise, Bob from AP might be reporting you for spamming him. I don't think it's going to happen, but it has to me before in a different industry. Okay, other things that are going to mess up your score. You don't want those typos. You want to send content that is relevant to people. Okay. So it's not like being a Hemingway or like being a viral sensation. It's basically like, are you giving people information that they want to know about? Are they more likely to open your email because they think it's something that they might care about? You don't ever want to purchase email lists. Number one, that is in violation of the Can-Spam Act because by law they have to consciously acknowledge and agree to being signed up for your specific email address. I mean, for your mailing list. And the point of that is partially because if you have any related adult content in there, they have to be aware from the get-go that they're saying, yes, I approve to receive email from X, Y, and Z business. Okay, also, purchased, most people are not going to open stuff. Like I never open things that that I don't remember signing up for. So if you didn't actually consciously by choice join a list, it's less likely that you're going to open it. It's going to hurt your engagement rate. It's going to hurt your sender reputation. And subsequently, you're going to go in the spam box. And we did talk about sending emails inconsistently. Okay. If you are consistently once a day, keep it to once a day. They're going to do red flags if you are sending once a month and then all of a sudden you send like every single day. You just want to keep it consistent. That's all. Whatever that frequency is, keep it consistent. Otherwise, they're going to think you're a spammer or a bot. Okay, you can check your sender score, senderscore.org. Okay. Don't be scared. It's not necessarily even a reflection of you. It is just a reflection of your email delivery service. Okay, but it is something you want to keep in your mind. Okay, this bit.ly, you can actually see, you can send a test of the email that you're going to send. This link, which is case sensitive, bit.ly / capital Gmail tabs check. That will show you where it is likely for your email to land within a Gmail interface. So whether it is in the promos, social, spam, or inbox. Just a little guide. Okay, we talked about laws. Can-Spam Act. We're just going to motor through these because it's really boring, but you have to do it. You can't use deceptive subject lines, okay? And you can't use false or misleading header information. Basically, don't try to loophole around. You can't say like, Labor Day couches for sale, or whatever, or like Home Depot is like half off. And then all of a sudden it goes to, your OnlyFans page. No, you can't do that because they'll consider that spam. Also, you actually really don't unless you are like a brand as opposed to an entrepreneur with a sole proprietorship. So you're supposed to send it if it's an ad, then you got to mark it as an ad. If it is adult content, strongly advise keep it safe for work. Number one, you don't want to get picked up on a spam filter. Number two, you don't want to be in violation of adult content email laws like spam laws. And then finally, don't give it away for free. Make sure that you're driving. That's a call to action. So most importantly, okay, these three things, you got to include a business address. Okay, you really, really do. It does not need to be your home address. You can usually get away if you have a P.O. box. You can do that. Your mile may vary. I am not an authority. I am not like a compliance attorney in any way. We've gotten around having just a generic address like city and state. Whether that works for you, I recommend being as specific as you can without outing yourself or putting yourself, in at risk. And yes, it is possible to, I don't want to be quoted on fudging, but should you fudge, don't tell me. You've absolutely got to include an unsubscribe link in the email. You've got to provide a way that is not buried. Okay, it's not like invisible. You've got to provide a way that if people want to opt out, they can do that. And you have to honor it within a week. If not, you can be reported. Here's a little anecdote, is that Brilliant Carly once took all 12,000 of my boss's LinkedIn contacts and sent them an email blast. And someone reported me, and it put our domain, the email address, that URL, in jeopardy. They gave us a warning. They didn't blacklist us. But if you're found in violation of this CAN-SPAM Act, which is unlikely, but if you are, they can blacklist that entire domain if you're using a branded domain. So just play by the rules. It's not worth, resubscribing someone and potentially not being able to use that email address, or worst comes to worst, your entire domain. Okay, so this is the full CAN-SPAM Act. If you choose to reference it, bit.ly/can-spammy with case sensitive, so capital CAN-capital S, spammy. Okay, and then here's a fun one, is avoid these trigger words. These will trigger the spam filter. And there's actually a list of about 135 words and phrases which you want to avoid. And you would literally be shocked at some of them. Who knew that the word wife was bad? I mean, thanks, Gmail. But yeah. So this is the list, the full list of SAM trigger words. It's about 135. Go check it out. bit.ly/ultimate spam case sensitive, all lowercase. Okay, we got to the point which everyone was looking for. What are your platform options? You've got adult-friendly email marketing services, which is, these are firsthand, I know, have not had a problem. Okay, now, Why Not Mail is an adult email marketing platform. You are not eligible if you are a full service sex worker, if you do in-person work. So be aware of that. Now, Sendy, which is a little complicated, is like a license that I believe you put on the Amazon SES, which is the functionality. Okay, and then you've got the newsletter plugin. If you have a website on WordPress, this is a WordPress plugin. And from there, you want to integrate it with an SMTP delivery service, or it's an integrated by SMTP with a delivery service. Okay, that gets all really techy. If you have questions, if that's something you're looking to do, feel free to message us. hello@wearepsgroup.com. Happy to answer questions and walk you through it. Now, if you don't have a website, or if you have a website on a different platform, a different web builder like Wix or Squarespace, these are all your mile may vary, which means proceed at your own risk, which is Wix and Squarespace. You always, and this goes for all of these here, you always want to export your subscribers very frequently, because God forbid something happen. That is not something that the vast majority of industries have to deal with, which is what it is. But For our purposes, be vigilant. Okay, be vigilant about always having a copy of your subscriber list. Okay, because Twitter, you can do newsletter subscriptions via the Twitter account. Okay, it's a new feature. They do it through getreview.co. Okay, and the exciting thing is you don't need a website to be able to capture those email addresses. You're not going to be able to capture additional fields like you would with most of the other ones, just because of the interface that they give you in the settings, but it does have pretty robust data. You're able to export those email lists, so you've got your subscribers. However, what happens if your Twitter is gone one day? So always be exporting your lists. Okay, so really quickly, a recap, and then we'll hit up some questions. Okay, so you can prepare for success with 10 specific things. Strategy, personalized segment. Really try to make sure it's relevant to that person based on categories. You want to track your performance with those key metrics that you've determined based on your strategy. You want to test, always be testing. And with that, play with the content, see what works, speak your mind, share information, do promos. You'll kill it if you just play with it. Don't get attached to the content. Don't be like, oh my God, I bombed it. You're doing great. I promise you. Finally, slam over the head with a call to action. Stick to your schedule. Be consistent. Keep a clean list. Stay safe for work and in compliance. Most importantly, proof your emails. Proof your emails. Send tests. Test the links. Send it all, because there's nothing worse than that, like sending, like that buffering bar when you're like, I just hit send and it's all going out and it says hello first name and it didn't merge. I've done that. So that is the workshop. That is email marketing. Now, I encourage you all to sign up for each other's lists. I encourage you to create a burner email account. Okay, create a burner email account. Sign up for lists everywhere, outside the industry, within the industry, brands, individuals, everything. See what other people are doing. Just put it all in like a random email account, so it's not like going crazy in your inbox, in your main inbox. But yeah, see what other people are doing. Don't copy it. Find inspiration. And I promise you, you are going to see results. By using all the tools and resources that are available to us, we can have a robust marketing mix that rivals a Home Depot or a General Electric or an Amazon. These are things that they do. These are things that we can do. And we can do them just as effectively, in my opinion. Hi guys, I'm Carly. Thank you so much for watching. It was great having you here, and we hope you learned something. So go stay safe, make lots of money. We got a photo bomber back here, but please check us out at wearepsgroup.com. Hit us up anytime by email at hello@wearepsgroup.com. And you can also find and follow us at Twitter and Instagram at wearepsgroup. Surprise. Thank you. Until next time.